your moderator, Tilo. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction, and then Tony, I'll hand everything over to you. But welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you here on the BeOnAir Forum. As you know, this is our spot that we bring our industry experts in and share with you all sorts of great information so that you have an opportunity to grow in your career and to learn from a pro to be a pro. The BeOnAir Forum is brought to you by the BeOnAir Network of Media Schools. And again, if it's your first time joining us, that is Ohio Media School in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Illinois Media School. Tony is part of Illinois Media School in Chicago, and O'Hare is our suburban campus. We have a campus in Denver and a campus in Miami. So we are across 4 states and 3 time zones, and it's difficult to ever get us together at the right time. So this is our time, and we're happy to have you here. We began this program in 2020. It was kind of our COVID thing, and having a chance to bring our students and our alumni together to grow and to learn in a world that was changing so very quickly, and how is media going to apply to that world. And we really found there was a great need to get together and to talk and to learn from our industry pros. And together we have grown many episodes, which you can find up on YouTube. We'll share that link in the chat. So if you want to catch any of our other pros along the way, we really invite you to check that out and like and subscribe. My name is Linda Lejeski. For those of you who have not met me, I am the National Employer Representative for the BeOnAir Network of Media Schools. This is a career service initiative. We, as I said, we brought together our students and our alumni and decided along the pathway to open up to our connecting environment, everybody that's in our network, because we all work so much together, we learn together, and through together, our networking always opens the door to opportunity. So we're so happy to have you all on board. We've got a great program tonight. We have 2 producers with us. I know all of you have seen them across social media, and we're so excited to have our Emmy Award producers, Danielle Pisano and Diana Rivera. Currently working on MTV Project Help. I'm in a secret relationship, so they're going to have a lot to share with us, not only on reality TV and the work that they do, but also they're coming to us as industry pros to talk about how to land that opportunity in production, how to use your network, how to grow within your network, how the world is changing in media. And so the importance of presenting your best self forward is always going to land you the job. They've got lots and lots to talk about. Tony Lopez is our moderator today. We're so happy to have Tony back. Again, he's such a good sport and does this with us bi-monthly. He's going to lead you on a great conversation. Just a little bit of housekeeping as we get started. Microphones are turned off, cameras are turned off, but we do invite you to be a part of the conversation. So as we move along, please feel free to raise your hand. There's a little icon on the top, or use the chat option and put your questions in chat, and we'll be moderating that and calling on you as we move through the hours. So relax and enjoy yourselves. I know you're going to have a ball over this next hour. Tony, it is all yours, and thank you for joining us.
Linda, you're good at this.
A little practice.
That was a really good, that was one of the best you've done so far.
Thank you.
Good introduction. Welcome into the forum, everyone. Today we have 2 special guests, as Linda mentioned, and I'm so excited to even ask some questions myself to them after I've seen their resume and things that they've done. But welcome to Diana and Danielle. Am I saying that right? Make sure I got that right.
You did.
Correct.
Diana. Nice to meet you, Tony.
Really good, really good. You as well. Nice to meet both of you. Well, let's get to it. You know, this forum is so awesome for alumni, for students to come on in and to really kind of engage with industry professionals. And I personally haven't had one yet where I'm leading a forum of producers, right? And producers are key, essential, especially in the TV industry. I've worked at a TV station for 3 years myself, and without the producer, things aren't moving. And so I know that you 2 know that very well, being that's what you guys are. And so I'll just kick it to first to Danielle. Danielle, how important is the producer role, especially in your experience throughout your career?
Well, yeah, you kind of said it. We are literally encompassing the entire project from beginning to end. So from ideation of like the creative content to the practical like layout of how you're going to get that production made. So you work in conjunction with like a production manager to like figure out where you're going to film, who you're going to film, and how you're going to make the unrealistic deadline that has been set for you by a network executive somewhere that doesn't have to get out there and shoot it like you do. So we just kind of like, we're kind of always managing the ever moving target and the many variables. Most of my staff likes to call me a chaos coordinator. I think that would probably be the most accurate description about what a producer does.
Yeah.
Most often in reality, it's more chaotic than say like your studio shows. Diana and I both start more in our careers in like talk and met doing court shows. So those are more regimented, but still can be chaotic in their own nature. And being a producer is really just about knowing how to like shift and problem solve the situation without making it more dramatic and and meeting your expectations and the goals set for the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diana, I'll kick it to you on this question. You know, she said a key, well, not a keyword, but a word that really brings me back memories, and it's chaos. Because things change a lot. It doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter what your sports, news, whatever. Things change. So, Diana, how do you I guess cope with that type of environment where you're shifting ideas left and right, and all of a sudden you got to go hold on the direction because that's what's going to work.
Yeah. Being able to pivot, pivot, as Ross Geller said in Friends, it is vital. You have to be able at the drop of the dime to sometimes figure out, you might have to tape a segment. I can give you guys an example. I was at Steve Harvey's talk show and I was doing a food fight with Chicago Pizza, Lou Malnati's versus Giordano's. And production did not get it cleared for us to have the mobile oven. And one of the restaurants, I'm not going to say which one, had to serve cold pizza. It was really bad because they ended up losing. And guess who they blamed? Me. So it's all, you have to think about everyone's job, not just yours. So you have to make sure all the boxes are checked in every single department. That is the tough thing about being a producer. The great thing is that when you have all those skills, you can do anything. Danielle and I feel like we can go into a million different jobs, like just when the, I'll just mention quickly, the strikes happened. We're already, if we're here and there and here and there, like, how else are we going to do this? What are we going to do?
Yeah, I definitely agree like 100% that producers can, and like, if you're going to think about the biggest piece of advice to take away for anyone starting off in the industry, wanting to be in producing, you are going to have to learn like everyone's role. And by taking that first entry level position, you're doing the small things that producer still thinks about. So there is no small job. Like, come in, do the job. While you're doing the job, watch what everyone else is doing so that you can help and foresee what they might need. And if you already are thinking 2 steps ahead of your already existing position, then you're on your track to being a really successful producer. I had a mentor one time tell me, like, you are always going to work the job you want before you get it. And and you have to like really show that you can do the next level position, right? I like worked my way up at the court show where I met Diana. At the time, Diana was already a producer and I was a little bit younger, still just coming in. And I just kept working my way up to that role by booking my butt off and finding great stories and just making sure everyone knew who I was and I was there to do my job. And I didn't mind that I had no life outside of work. I mean, thank God Chicago's so cold you don't want to go outside. But it was, it was like, and that was actually I met Diana, one of my first jobs that took me out of like my home state. So I'm from New Jersey. I was in like a position, I was doing some casting because I do casting in between production jobs, because production jobs can be burnout. And you do want to know like where you want to go. If you want to have another skill that if the job gets, because this is such a fast-paced industry and you can get burnt out. Like I lived about 5 years on the road, like in hotel rooms and just running to the next set and the next this and and your family becomes your production, right? Like those become your whole life. And then you grow up and you have a family. So the juggling that's a little, but it's still something I hope to get back into the field. And I think that my contact from my very first internship is the contact who got me the job in Chicago. And he wasn't even my direct report at my internship. He was just a personal relationship that I fostered while on my internship. And we've still remained friends to this day.
Danielle, I'm going to tell you how good you are. Because I have a rundown. Okay, check this out. This is both of you. I have a rundown here of how I'm gonna set this up for you guys. And you have literally taken me to the next part of my rundown.
We're producers. We're thinking just like you, Tony. And also for us too, especially in our current states in casting, we are also experts at people. Like it is just like reading people and reading. And that is, I think, also a great piece of advice for anyone in this industry is us like really pay attention to how people operate and learn how to operate as if you're operating in their stance, but it's really for your benefit as well. And it sounds maybe manipulative or something, but it really is about like just honing your skills on people.
Yeah. It's exactly what you just did. It was perfect. And yeah, I wanted to ask you about where you had started, and that was my next question for both of you. Diana, if you can expound on how you started in the industry.
Yeah, so I was in Chicago. I'm in LA now. I made it this way a while ago, but I was in Chicago and I was trying to figure out. Now, this was when I only had phone books. I didn't have LinkedIn. All of you have access to so many amazing things I didn't have back then. So I pulled out the phone book and I looked up production companies in the yellow pages, film companies. And I randomly called this, he actually did commercials. He's one of the top commercial producers in Chicago at the time, but also a renowned photographer named Dennis Monarchy. It was a company called Monarchy Films on Hubbard Street. And basically I called them, I said, this is what I want to do. They ended up hiring me. They hired me as like an office PA, and I learned so much. It was their entire family who was in the business. So I was helping out, working, Porsche, Chevy commercial, Blistex, Pine Sol, and I got exposed to the commercial world. So I started working in commercials first before I got into TV. Mm-hmm. So luckily they gave me a chance. Sometimes it's a random phone call and they liked me. So
you got in. There
yeah.
You were.
Yeah.
That's how sometimes you ladies know out of, at this industry, especially word of mouth or just being there is just the way to go. And then you never know where it leads from there. So I could just imagine how it started for you guys, and then all the opportunities you took advantage of as well. We're going to talk more about producing and so forth a bit later, but I did want to ask you guys, because we're in 2024, social media is huge, and in your specific role, not being an on-air talent, right, or an artist or whatever that looks like, how important is social media as a producer or behind the scenes? LinkedIn as an example, and then of course all the other platforms. How important is it for both of you? I'll start with Danielle.
I mean, I think that's like an interesting question, because like Diana's not a social media person at all. Like we as partners I'm like, you need to do this, and she's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, you go do it, Danielle. You go put your face out there. And I'm always the guinea pig. But I will say, like, you have to remember, we started our careers when that wasn't as important. I think I have like a twofold feeling on it, right? Like I, as a hiring manager, totally stalk your life before I meet you. Like I
I
just,
guess that's really where my question was geared towards.
yeah,
For
like I
hiring.
want to get like a perception on like, so I do think that the image you portray is important as a holistic image, right? But like my LinkedIn image versus my like personal social media that you also can't get unless you're my friend is different. LinkedIn's all business, and my Instagram has business and my kid, like different things, personal things or what have you. But I think that there's some kind of like good medium ground I think that you need to have, right? Like you would never like, I don't post anything that I wouldn't want your boss to see ever, right? Or if you're gonna do like a big background check, write anything that could be misleading. I'm not as big a fan as like every time you see a celebrity, make sure you get a picture and post about it and tell everyone. I come of the thought like, move in silence. But that's not the way this world is now, right? So I think there's some kind of happy medium. And I do think LinkedIn is like a perfect place to present your professionalism, but I still always go to find somebody on the personal social media platform to see if I can gauge what their personality is like. Like, are they going to be able to handle me? I'm not an easy boss to work for. I know that. Diana is the nice person in this duo. She makes everyone, she calms everyone down. And then our associate Megan, who's been my assistant for 3 years, like she really helps everybody really understand what we're saying and thinking. But Diana, what's your perspective on the social media? I'm curious to hear what you're going to say now.
I'm not, I know where it's going. I know like it's a creator's economy right now. And I know how to navigate it. I do feel like, I'm going to touch on LinkedIn for a second because there's so much value in that. I will tell you, I've gone to UCLA Business School for entertainment, media, and sports. First thing, LinkedIn. You're connected to, 15,000 alum. These are all, you got to connect with those people. I like seeing who knows someone I'm trying to reach. And Danielle and I talk about that all the time. We'll be on a Zoom together looking at people's profiles because they can potentially get us a meeting at this company. Right. So it's all about who you know and who's going to introduce you. Because if people respect your work, they will make the connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we will use LinkedIn. Diana's always big on it. She's like, I have 14 UCLA alum. I'm like, I have an alum from Seton Hall that's been with them, but like I'll go back through their friends and I'll be like, nope, this person I worked with and they know me. So like, yeah, we'll go after that. I'll hit up that person and say, hey, are you still working at this company? LinkedIn says you are. I want to talk to this person. It says you're connected to them. How close are you with them? Can you intro me? And then it's still from that. But if you're like building your network, it's probably all of the connections from your alumni and then career. Every single person that you work with on any job in entertainment or adjacent entertainment, you should be friending on LinkedIn right away. I think somebody has a question. I see a hand. I don't know if that we're doing that.
And we're actually going to get to questions in a bit for those of you that can. We're going to have a Q&A session the last 15 minutes of the forum. And so we'll mark, I'm sure our moderators behind the scenes are going to mark that down. So just hang tight for us. Any questions that you have as well during the actual chat or during the forum, I'm sorry, you can put it in the chat and we'll get to those as well. So keep, put them in the chat and we got you guys. We'll get to all of them later on in the forum, last 15 minutes. So see, producer, she's good. She's watching.
Sorry.
And it's crazy because Danielle, you almost did it again earlier. But I was gonna ask you, being a producer is, like I mentioned to you, is so important. I've worked with many producers myself. I know the energy that they have, and I understand why. It's really all on you guys. You're running the show. It's the way the show looks, the content provided, you guys are structuring that. So I ask you this, as producers, what do you look for in people if you want to rehire them or have them work with you again? What things do you look for really essentially? I'll start with Diana on this one.
Definitely look for, the first thing we look for, we get a lot of referrals. So it's normal to, go to friends or post and say, hey, do you know someone, we'll have an open position for a production assistant or, an associate. We always go to our friends first. However, we'll meet people along the way that make an impression on us. And it's always important when I say stay connected. Danielle and I constantly have people reaching out saying, my work. If you have any openings, let us know. And it's completely normal where Danielle and I have hired people along the way because we work for them and we know firsthand what that is like. We also welcome communication. If someone's like, reaches out to us a couple times, like, we would love for you to give me a shot. I'm all about that. Because, you got to have some gumption. You got to, just say, it takes a lot to just put yourself out there and ask someone for help. Or just, the little stepping stone to get into the industry. We're very open to that. It just has to be the right circumstances,
I do a lot of hiring on this last current project that we have. We've had, it's a very difficult project. And so for me, what I've found to be the best employees, I mean, like Jacqueline, like we had a PA, I hired her right out of college. She had never worked a single TV, anything. She didn't know what casting was. She did an internship at she went to a small school in Pennsylvania, not a big school. So it doesn't matter where you go to school. If you have the gumption and ability to she just sold herself to me. I met her, I was at picking my son up from a play date, and the mom's like, you're a producer, right? Which is the question I literally get every day. That I have a TV show for you, and can you help me get my brother or somebody into the business? It's the most overly used questions we get regularly. So I'm like, here we go again. And this young girl comes out and she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was watching the kids in the pool. Can I set up a proper meeting with you? And I was like, sure. I'm interviewing for this job. You don't have any of these skills, but send me your resume and I'll interview you. And she had just enough of the chaotic, nervous energy that you need to be a really good producer, right? Yep. You're overachieving perfectionist, and it just read through in her interview. And from the day she started with me over a year ago, she has just progressively elevated, and I've already promoted her once, and I told her that I'll promote her one more time and then she's got to go work for somebody else. She can't work for me her whole career, as much as she might love to stay with me. I was like, I need you to go out and get a different job. And I'm doing this for your own good because you need to gain your skill set. She's mastering casting right now, and I don't have an in the field production for her right now. As soon as I did, I'd move her in a heartbeat. But she just came with the, okay, I don't know anything, so I'm just going to ask a ton of questions and I'm going to listen to what everybody's saying. And she just took it, and she'd never edited a casting tape. And now I'll be like, just send it to Jacqueline, always. So I think that it is your willingness to take the critique is something that's very hard. I don't know how old or what the generational people listening in, but I think if you're older and you're having a second act, right? Because a lot of us want to do different jobs later in life, you have to be willing enough to take the critique, knowing that you're still an adult and you don't think you just, it's very hard to come from the position of hearing a criticism or you could do this better. And then from the younger perspective, it's you don't have I know you all think you know everybody. When we're young, and when I was 20, I thought I knew everything too. You don't. Just try to take as much as what the people are saying and like see where you can address it. And I think people who are the most successful take the notes and address them. I take notes every single day from my higher ups. It doesn't matter. I mean, even as an executive producer, you are still taking notes from a network because the network is your client. And as a client, you're still taking notes from someone else. Like there is always like a chain of command, and like how we were talking about having like thick skin. Listen, like sorry, I don't know, Linda, if this is gonna be bad, but like, shit rolls downhill. So like all the stress from like what everyone's expectations are run down. So you got to be able to just know that you're not getting crapped on, you're taking the stress of like what's happening and bring a resolution. That's my best thing. Like there's always going to be a problem. You can tell me a problem as long as you have a resolution with it. I never go to my boss, okay, we're not going to be able to make this. I go, well, it's looking like we don't have any married couple in this one, but we have these 3 things that I think are really good, and I'm going to spin this one so it looks like that. And now I've already given they don't have to figure out the problem, right? I've given them 3 solutions. If they want to pick a different one because they're my boss, they can, but I've already given them an option to solve the problem. So that's a big piece of advice that I would say to anyone in any job, whether you want to work in production for the rest of your life or work anywhere. I think being able to offer a resolution with a problem is helpful across any genre of career.
Can I add to that really quick? My best advice right now, just bouncing off of that, you never ever want your boss to see you sweat in this business. You literally solve the problems before they even find out.
Yeah.
Trust me when I say that. You want it because it also shows a lot about your character and your work ethic. Try to solve the problem it's already a stressful business as it is. So don't put that stress on someone else's back because it will be bad. So just problem solve on your own and try to get what you can done without alarming anyone.
I often like to say it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. So fix the problem. And if you did it wrong, they will be like, don't do it like this, but thanks for saving my butt. So like it'll still, it usually works out in your advantage. And it does, it shows them that you have like initiative. And like it does go in any department. Post-production, like I've worked in post-production, I've worked in production, I've shot third camera on shows. Like no one should give me a camera. My hands shake. I don't know why anyone did this, but I have for like shows that air on major networks. I've shot a lot of stuff. So like I also think to be a good boss, you should know everyone's position and have worked it once or twice in your career so that you actually understand the minutiae of the problems that they're facing in their position and or department.
Yep. We're gonna talk about some of those shows here in a bit too. But it's funny as you two are talking, you give me a little PTSD as a PA when I used to work at NBC Sports Chicago. Producers coming up and asking me a question firmly and needing an answer in 1 minute exactly, and I'm like, got it. I gotta find a solution to this. So it's very, very true. But hey, this is why, especially you ladies, if I'm reading this correctly, 5 Emmy nominations and 2 wins. Is that right? Am I right?
Yes, we have 1 win together, so we have 2 Emmys. Like she has an Emmy and I have an Emmy for the same show.
Yeah, and this is why you guys have Emmys. I mean, nominations and 1 because of that energy you guys bring. So it is awesome to hear. It could be stressful, but the job gets done and it looks great. So I wanted to ask you guys in that vein, well, as we continue talking about production and the shows, specifically for our students or alumni or anybody getting in the industry, what does job entry level positions look like in your specific industry?
For like your role or like what pay structure or like
just positions itself at any of the shows that you guys work for.
Entry-level positions would be like a PA across the board. So that could be a casting PA, a field PA, a post-production PA, a story PA, and that's a production assistant. And your duties can literally be running an errand to depending on your position. I mean, like if you're a post PA, you're going to start pulling tapes and syncing and getting time code and running it through, you know, like transcription service, and organizing bins for your editors. Where if you're like our casting PAs, like on our current show, the PAs that came to me with no experience right out of college, they're writing ads, creating flyers, posting, cold calling people, and they're editing and talking to people and writing pitch docs and writing one sheets and making collections of videos. I mean, pretty much anything can be asked of you as a PA. And then there's like associate producer level, and that's, you know, even in post produce, there would be like an AE, which would be an assistant editor. And those duties all, if you're in the field, that person is usually running point with the talent and running location point and managing of all of that, and some writing. As a producer, you're kind of doing all of those things that I just said, plus managing the above the line, right? So like you're in the meetings with the network, you're in the meetings with the talent, you're in the meetings with the legal team, you're on calls with legal within the network about what you can or cannot say, or does this story potentially cause an issue for a lawsuit, and what's our ratio of what we think we could get sued for this content and or this person. Or if like, you know, I mean, I've done a lot of Love and Hip Hops. Like I've been in the middle of a lot of fights and a lot of legal. I was like locked at gunpoint in a studio. So I also chase criminals in Hawaii. So like I'm void of emotion at this point. Nothing scares me. Diana wishes I was more of a dog person sometimes and nice and calm, but I'm not made like that. Diana's the really smart book person who's very nice to everyone, and I'm like, why didn't we do this yesterday? I told you all this. I said it once. Did nobody listen? I don't love repeating myself. Diana has way more patience for things like that. Diana, did I describe positions properly? I don't know. I think I went on a tangent.
You did. You pretty much all of them in the entire industry. Yeah.
For the entry levels, there's a lot more, but
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good overview in a small amount of time, so that's good. You know, COVID-19 changed a lot. You guys know, especially in our industry. So I want to ask you both, how did it change what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, and has the structure changed? You know, at the production company you guys work for, how did that change the game for you guys?
Yeah, so it was really complicated. So I think, you know, obviously remote work was a huge part of it, and not, you know, being with your team, you know, in a group setting in person was a lot. So that was the first thing. And secondly, what I think came of it, because the streamers kind of went crazy, you know, during the pandemic, there was a huge shift, obviously, to streaming, the amount of money that they were spending, and then overbuying, and then, you know, just trying to figure out, they took it and ran, but kind of went too fast. So then I think we saw everything kind of fall by the wayside. You're seeing, like, you know, some streamers struggling a little bit, some more than others because they went crazy with their spending. So I think to this day it has affected how much they're spending. We noticed our budgets change. You know, they releasing maybe a smaller amount of money, or contract terms may have been shorter than they normally would be. Because everyone needed to rebound and play it safe a little bit. So definitely a point of pivoting. A lot of, you know, people weren't getting hired during those periods because there wasn't much happening. So, and it was scary. And that was like one of the things, you know, I wanted to say too, is that in our business, we are freelancers, you know, and it's like, when things like that happen, you know, I've seen people in, you know, some of my media groups, you know, still struggling to this day from the pandemic and finding work. And, you know, we've been very lucky. We've been very blessed to have been working, during those tough times. So you got to learn how, and back to the whole pivot thing, you got to learn how to make the most of those situations, even like when the strikes occurred. A lot of people panicked, like if you think about, even content creation now and how it's being released, there are ways that producers can make money outside of producing television.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's learning how to use your skill set to make other properties.
I would just like to say that they say like video killed the radio star, like Netflix killed the industry. Okay. We're not we're still not okay. There's still a lot of issues within the framework of our industry. Everybody's trying to catch up. There's no money. I used to get like buys of like 24 episode shows. Now they buy our current show that we're in 12. It's like release of money from the network level in smaller pockets. I mean, you have to also realize that I don't think when you're a viewer or even someone just starting out, like you realize like the amount of money these transactions are. Like my casting department, that we're currently in on our show right now, has probably like a $2 to $3 million budget for casting. That's over 12 episodes. Like it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's just the initial part. And that like includes, just my staff. That's not like all the other things so it is, the industry now is trying to figure it back out because everyone went digital and then everyone realized that they were paying $20 to 24 different things and not watching anything. And so then they canceled all their subscriptions and now they have no money because they spent money that they don't have, right? And the pay scale in our careers were at right before 2020, we're at a record high of my rates that I was getting for myself and my staff. I still don't think are correct. Like I don't think we're getting paid what we would have gotten paid pre-COVID, right? For what we're currently doing. So that's going to trickle down to like everybody's positions, right? And so I've had people apply to work for me who are like executive producer level because they just want money and they want to be able to work. So I think the thing that no one taught me when I was younger was if you want to do this business and you're dead set that this is what you want to do, you have to look at yourself like a business. You should take business classes on how you're going to manage your money and your lifestyle based on not always having a paycheck, because there is no guarantee of always having a paycheck in this industry. And, Diana's really good with money where I'm more frivolous. But I'm also a very good business person, and I'll be the one out there like begging, begging and demanding people for money and stuff. So we do compliment each other, but you do it's a lot, you carry your own medical, you have to be okay without getting paid for a month, because if you're freelance, there's a pocket of the year that if you don't have a job by September, October, you won't have a job until February.
Yeah. Because
no one's spending money in the fourth quarter of the year for you to get employment. So if you didn't already get the money at the end of the third quarter, you're not working until middle of the first quarter. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know. I was trailing. My brain.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. I was going to ask you both, and the nature of the business that you guys just expressed is very true, with not having potential job security in different ways. Would you guys recommend like alumni groups, mix and mingle events in regards to business activities for people who are trying to get in this specific industry? Is that a big thing?
Yes, and I think you should do in-person meet and greets, because I think what has from post-COVID 20, for even just me, I haven't seen the people who I used to. I'm totally remote now. Diana's totally remote. She's remote from LA. I'm in New Jersey. The company is headquarters in New York City. They don't ever even ask me to come in anymore. I don't see anybody face to face. The relationship that you make face to face, or the drinks are someone's at a different production company, you're finishing up here, and you're like, oh, a bunch of us are going to meet here who used to work together, and they're all working at different places. So if you can go to an in-person meet and greet, or a meetup or an alumni party, go meet people, make an impression, have a laugh with somebody, and they'll remember that you were funny. And like when you're about to go get in the trenches and go to war in production, you want somebody who's going to make you laugh, right? So I think those things are really, really important. I miss them, and I don't think there's been enough. I don't think that's come back fully, the networking in physical form, as much as it is a really, I think, valuable tool.
Dan, did you have anything at all? I don't know if you were going to say something or.
Oh, I was. I agree with the whole in-person thing. There are also tons of groups. There's private groups that, you know, like there's like groups that like we have media mavens. You have to be invited by a current member to, you know, and that's another thing you can totally reach out to us and have a
Yes.
conversation with us. Can add you to the private groups. But yeah, I would definitely say that we get inbox opportunities from these groups frequently. And if you can go to any of those mixers, I agree. I co-sign that. I think it's great. Meeting people in person, shaking hands, and just like Jacqueline, who works on our show, like Danielle said, just can I set up a meeting with you?
Gotcha. Yeah. That's good. That's good stuff right there. I wanted to add, and by the way, just real quick, just to reset, we're going to be having a Q&A session in about 5 to 6 minutes or so. So hang tight. If you have any questions, please write. I see a question already on the chat, so we'll get to them in a second. Or raise your hand, and we'll get to you as well, as Danielle and Diana will answer any questions that you guys have in a bit here. I want to ask you a quick fun one before we get to that, though. I want to ask you, have you guys seen the Cat Williams podcast, The Interview? Have you seen bits and pieces of it? Or
bits and pieces of it, yeah. And I haven't seen the full interview.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you as producers, how would you handle that as it's going live in the backdrop? Because that must have been a very nerve-wracking experience for a producer, right?
That was literally my life for like so many projects. I would be like, oh my God, please, with the cringe. I mean, I had Jim Jones at one time. I was like, I can blind you with dental floss. Like, you have got to stop smoking. You can't have a full conversation. I think as a producer, you kind of just let them go off the road. I mean, like that point, they were already off script. So
yeah, and it got clicks for a reason. I mean, people were going crazy over it. So it's like at that point, you're like, oh, okay, this is a thing. It could be good, and it was entertaining. Yeah.
During that interview, I don't know if it was a producer or if it was one of his agents or something correct Shannon Sharp on a fact, and it came out. You can hear him in the background saying, "Actually, that wasn't correct," and then he said something. And I'm wondering, you know, that dynamic on the backdrop, because I'm watching it from a perspective of behind the scenes as well, and I'm just thinking that must have been very interesting behind the scenes, wondering where it was going to go next and making sure it didn't hit the fan.
Yeah, and Danielle and I think I can speak for both of us. We've both been on shows where we've had to stop down for something. There's things that happen. I will say there was a show that I actually did in New York, and it was a celebrity, and he had to, you know, you put all this money into it. We flew everyone out to New York to shoot this episode with this person. And we get there, we're in our van, and he basically says that his ex-girlfriend had died, and he had to go to her funeral. So we were like, oh my gosh, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars later, how are we going to handle this? And like, how, you know what I mean? So like, you have to think in those moments, like, you have to go with it. We did end up stopping down. We went to the funeral with him and we waited in the van, but it's like, it's those things that like, you have to be able to handle it. And deal with those things as they come, and sometimes just go. We actually ended up the sensitive part of it. It was very sad, but we actually ended up putting it in the episode, and it worked. So things like that happen, but we have stopped down for like different things. Yeah.
In your MTV show, Help, I'm in a Secret Relationship, I'm assuming you experience a little bit of mayhem.
Yeah,
correct?
we don't actually go out and film it since we're the casting department, but we deal with a lot of the unique things about people that are in tumultuous relationships. I mean, and on Jersey Shore, I probably had millions of moments where I was like cringing my whole life away, praying that I could get them out of jail or get them home without going to jail. So a few, there was always a lot of touch and go moments for me. I think Black Ink Crew probably broke me the worst out of everybody. It was a very rough few years on that set. It was a lot. But you just kind of, everyone's human, so everybody has a break, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's awesome. We want to get to our Q&A section here real quick, then give a chance to some of our students, alumni, or anybody that's on the forum to ask a question. There is one on the chat here. It is from Gabriel. He says, "What if a job in film editing? I'm sorry. What if I want a job in film editing and post production? I guess how to go about it from the start."
I mean, I think that it's very similar to any position. You would want to start looking for like any kind of post production jobs at the entry level called post houses. And then editing, you should probably have your reel up somewhere if you expect that somebody is going to give you an editing job. And if you're just starting out in editing, I would take any kind of editing job, like editing casting tapes, or like even if it's not for air, because you're going to start to understand what the network looks for. And so then they'll learn how to build a story, even from like the beginning part. And I mean, there's a ton of groups for post-production, specifically for post-production people, that you should explore within Facebook and LinkedIn for sure. And I would really like take any kind of post PA, story PA, anything, because even as a story person, you're working an Avid or like an edit station. So it's like post-production adjacent, editing adjacent. Diana, did you?
I co-sign that. Another thing too that I want to point out is that even though we all have access to like all these ways to get in touch with people, just remember that everyone else does too. So the pool got much larger, and there's a lot of people trying to get in the business. So try to think of ways like, if you create the website, there's ways to do it for free now. There's so many things that you can do to stand out from other people. You just have to make sure to do something to be seen, because you can get drowned out. And recently, you could see 1,000 people applying for one position. So, and don't let it deter you. Someone maybe can make that introduction for you. You just have to go about it a different way.
And like find whatever you think is your strong suit to like present yourself in a way that's like unique and you stand out.
Absolutely. We have another question here. Just came in from Jason. Is asking, how long should a production demo reel be, and what specifically are you searching for? Written within this kind. Sorry.
Can you just, Jason, are you talking about like a production demo, like for your editing skills, or what is the demo reel? Because you could have a demo reel for a variety of things. Like, it just depends, I guess. Can you give me a little more context into what you mean by a production demo? Sorry, Jason.
Let me see if I can give him
or let him
access
talk.
to the mic. Yeah,
He can
his
talk to
mic
us.
is probably not enabled. Give me 1 second.
Okay,
there we go.
awesome.
All right, Jason, you should be able to jump in.
Thank you, Huda.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call, guys. And this is a very, very important Just being a part of this is very important and very insightful. So thank you. So my question is, so if I'm completing a highlight reel from shows that I produced, put together, or just recorded in general, I guess my question would be, how long should those clips be, and how long in total should it be? And I think most specifically, are you looking for the actual the 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 stuff that I actually produced within that show, or are you looking for certain highlight clips? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I think like you maybe would want to do like one or two sound ups on like a moment that was like great or reactionary that you maybe were a part of, like a tentpole event on a show that you produced, that, you know, like I would pull up, you know, the Situation's wedding because I produced a wedding with 500 people. And so you take highlights from that. But I just would say in general, I don't know, Diana, how you would feel about this. You know, I have 5 seconds of like patience. I want to watch something fast. So I would say 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say, about 2.5.
Yeah.
You know, the super great point, Danielle. And I also think too that, like, you know, anything that you are good at, because a lot of times you're going to see that you may jump from position to position, you know, on certain shows. And you may experience new things, like, you know, working on talk shows and being a show producer, you kind of like, you're producing every single asset of the show. But like, I was at the Talk on CBS for a while, and I only did human interest stories. And I also did Hot Topics when I was on that show. So like, if that's the case, you know, their round table, I would highlight that. Anything that you really contributed to and it was the greatest moment of that episode, that's what should be on there. Quick clips, keep it moving.
Thank you.
Anthony, who's raised his hand. Anthony has a question. Are you there, Anthony?
I think he wrote the question now, I think.
Oh, he sure did. Actually, here it is. Says, I'm a voiceover performer about to have a professional demo produced and self-published author one book. I know it's unlikely, but can you refer me to anyone? Yes, that's what he did. He wrote on the chat. Sorry, I was just reading down the list there.
So you want to get like context and for voiceover performing. I mean, I may have one or two people that I know that I could refer you to. There was actually, it doesn't Bethany like gets a lot of work
In voiceovers,
in
yeah.
voiceovers, right? I
Yeah.
mean, she's repped by someone too, and she does a lot of voiceovers. So
Yeah, I know a
maybe we
couple
can
people
connect
as
her.
well. Yeah,
Maybe
I
we
know
can
some
connect
people
Anthony
here.
with them.
Yeah.
It is definitely like a little bit removed from our world, but not impossible that we would know somebody.
Sure. And I'm sure you both will have your information towards the end of the
So
forum.
I put our emails in the chat. What Linda dropped in the chat for you guys, if you want to check out like our stand store, we do have like a course if you are interested in casting or producing. And then also a way to contact us for like mentorship that way as well. And I gave you our personal emails.
Yeah, and LinkedIn, I would say
And
definitely
LinkedIn,
request us on
obviously.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Another question from Lorena Wilson. Is Lorena there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello. So I
Hi.
want to, how y'all doing?
Good.
Okay. I want to go, I know y'all doing producer, but I want to go more in the interviewing route. And I was asking for networking purposes. How can I put myself out there, like to interview like celebrities or anybody else?
I mean, I know a lot of producers who turn into on-air talent. If you want to be able to interview people, you probably need to be a producer too. And for that, you should find ways to book some segments and start interviewing people. You want to know how to get in touch with those people. Diana, that's probably you.
Yeah. this is what I would do. Where do you live?
So I'm currently live in Washington State.
You're in Washington State. Okay. I'm just thinking about the amount of celebrities that there are there for you. This is just based on personal preference and the way things are moving right now in our business. You can back into it a different way because with the help of social media. So you could technically build your own YouTube. You could, people do take interviews, and don't ever be afraid to ask. So you could do your own show, like, come up with a name, like, house it somewhere. It could be, something small on TikTok where you're doing you fly on the wall interviews with random people on the street. There's a way to like get into it without directly going there, if that makes sense. You just got to kind of think out of the box for stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do have Jamie as well. Jamie has a question. Jamie, are you there?
Maybe not.
Jamie should have a mic access. Jamie, if you want to unmute yourself, or you can put your question in the chat.
Hello, can you hear me?
There she goes.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I for some reason I can't see your contact information on my, I don't know if it's because I'm using my phone, but I had a question. So how can I go about getting casted, and what do you guys recommend, like, to stand out in the cast?
I'm sorry.
Diana. She wants to know how to stand out in casting. Go ahead, tell her you're talking to people today.
How to stand out to work in casting or be cast?
Yeah, like how do I get started, like, to
You
like,
wanna-
cast?
Do you want to be on TV, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there's so many different ways. You communicate with Danielle and I. It depends on what you would want to be cast for. Are we talking like scripted series? Are we talking unscripted?
Yeah, like a scripted series.
Okay. Do you have any like acting training?
No, that's the thing. Like,
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you should start out doing then is taking a training course with acting, and usually that coach, like, I have a friend who does casting for motion pictures, and
I'm not
she
sure who
does
that
courses.
is. What's your friend's name?
Where did that come from?
Oh,
What just happened?
I don't know. That was random. I don't know.
That was so creepy. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah,
That
what
was my computer.
AI?
That
I was gonna
so
say that
weird.
sounded like Siri or something.
I was like, what is that? Oh, sorry. That just creeped me out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mayhem producers. Uh-oh.
Right.
So,
The
is
control
there any
freak producer in
particular-
us.
Is there anyone, like, that you particularly recommend?
Oh, there's so many acting coaches. I mean, I know so many personally. I'm sure Danielle does too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you just reach out to us so we can kind of hone in a little better on what you're looking to do, and we can probably give you better answers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And then one final question here from Anne. Rachel, are you there?
Hi, I'm there. Hi everyone. How are you?
Hi.
Hi. My question was, well, you both have worked in media and have memorable experiences. What lessons have you learned collaborating with Netflix or Bravo or others? And how do you manage work-life balance?
And I don't know that we do manage our work-life balance. I'm just kidding. So working with those networks, I think every network has their own set of unique positives and negatives.
Mm-hmm.
But any client that's a repeat client is positive in my book. So you have to honestly just be able to, Diana has used my least favorite word in television, pivot, more times in this 1 hour than I think she's ever used it in our friendship of over 15 years. But Yes, I guess pivot. I just like to say juggle ever-changing priorities because they will always change.
Exactly.
You know, Bravo is kind of like a tough closed circuit, I will be honest, even for myself, that's like a very seasoned professional. For me and Diana, like Diana hates doing reality shows, but I love them. I will pitch Bravo shows all day long, but they're a much harder nut to crack. Netflix used to be easier in the new current state. It has become a little bit harder there as well. But I don't think that, are you asking is one better than the other? Or what are you asking, like what they're looking for? Are you someone who likes to develop shows? What do you?
Like, what's the most memorable experiences that you've had working with them?
Memorable.
Yeah, the lessons that you've learned, those things. Yeah.
Diana, what's your biggest lesson? You love a lesson. You keep going to school. Tell us the lesson.
I haven't worked with Bravo. Have I worked? You've only worked with Bravo. Yeah, let me address the work-life balance thing because
Because it's not happening.
yeah. Well,
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's complicated. So it's something that you kind of have to go. It depends on what kind of TV you're doing. So if you want to, it just depends. You have to be used to coming home, in the middle of the night. And I mean, I missed family dinners. I just couldn't tuck my kids in. Like it was rough, and it's
I
like,
haven't had a vacation where I wasn't working in over 2 years since we've been really putting like the pedal. Like I haven't had a vacation where my computer wasn't with me in the last 2 to 3 years.
yeah.
But I get to get my kid off the bus now that COVID lets me work from home. COVID let me work from home. So like there is a balance, right? I would say, I remember being like a young woman in production thinking like I could never have a kid and family because I had to be I worked at like Maury, like I had a freaking SkyTel pager where people would call me and beat me every and all hours of the day, night, and insanity. But so I didn't think it was going to be possible. And then like you just make it possible, right? Like you want to win an Emmy, you work really hard to win the Emmy. You make as many connections, you see what genres win those awards, Like I think after we won the Emmy, I stopped doing any kind of studio-based show and then didn't go back to studio-based shows for about another decade after because I was like, I want to be in the field and I don't want this regimented thing. But you find the way to like balance it. And if you love what you do, does it really feel that bad, right? Like I love what I do. Like there are days where Diana will get on our morning meeting and say that she hates everybody. I sometimes say that too. Like but then we like start talking with our team and we start being creative, or we hear a network note that makes us really excited, or Diana, is like our star performer on this current show, and every episode has been people that she's cast. So her and her team are super stoked, like you kind of just, but you have to work at keeping a balance. And you need to have your own boundaries. And I do think our industry is better at allowing people to have boundaries than when I was coming up in this industry. Like I worked on the day we buried my grandmother for Maury. They did not give a,
Yeah, I'll say
yeah. Thank you. I'm like, I don't want Linda never to invite me back. You say it for me, Ann. But it's possible, and don't give up. And women can still do just as much as anything, and you can still have all the things and still be a kick-ass person. And I think women are just having like even more of a time to shine in this industry these days. So
yes, all to girl power. Thank you so much, Sid.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann, for your question. And ladies, an hour goes by so fast. You realize how fast it went, but you two have literally been so awesome. I hope our alumni and anybody who was on the forum got a sneak peek at what that looks like behind the scenes on in the producer role slash, director, PA. I mean, it can be insanity, but what I can amount from everything that has been said before I kick it back to Linda is that I know you two love your job. I know it's crazy. I know it's all over the place, but when you love what you do, it's sometimes not work, and it comes with the territory. And I know you two have a lot of experience, and really for myself as well, it's been a pleasure speaking to both of you, and I hope to see you guys soon again.
Thank you. Nice
Tony.
meeting you, Tony.
It was super fun
great.
talking with
Yes.
you, Tony, and with your alumni and students. And I hope they got a lot out of this. And we gave our email. I'm going to send it again. Everybody seems to not have gotten it, so I'm going to do it again. So Linda, I'm sure you probably want to, I'm trying to.
You're awesome. No, you keep on going. And I have to say, I always have my mic off and my camera off, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, yeah, you go. Yeah, I love that, but you can't hear me, thank goodness, right? But what a great hour, and I think while there were so many nuggets that were dropped in the hour, I think the part that I enjoyed the most is really for everybody that's on here to see how human the two of you are, right? You are in your homes, you're chatting and you're sharing such important information, and really that old tried and true. If you want it, you have to work for it. It's not going to come bought. To use that network that surrounds you to be able to grow and create great things. So, I thank you both. And Tony, you were amazing too. You're a great, I feel like our shows are becoming more like a podcast. Like we really we need a podcast. You're our podcast guy. It's just so awesome. Oh, and join the podcast network, by the way, right? But it's just our pleasure to have you here, and we're going to invite you back. We hope that you'll join us again. And I'll be reaching out, and we'll share your information to all that attended as well. So if you don't get it in the chat, don't worry about that. But, you've changed lives today, ladies, which is such an awesome thing. We really pride ourselves in making a difference. And anytime you take what you have and you pay it forward, it truly is. It's corny, but it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? So, thank you both for joining us on what's a cold night up north and maybe a little bit warmer down south, but you warmed our evening, and we look forward to connecting again soon.
It was really nice
Amazing.
talking with you. Thank you for having us, Linda. Thank you, Tony. You were really wonderful. And good luck to all of you, future award-winning, whatever you want to be.
Thank you for everything, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Linda.
You too.
Linda, I
You
dropped
too.
in the
What,
Linda, I
Jen?
dropped in the chat the